I think what we just watched, honestly, might have been the best game of the year. And I'm not joking when I say that. That game was so entertaining. I mean, the twists and turns that we saw in that game, from Marvin Harrison Jr., who we will definitely talk about at length, to the Cardinals, and probably one of the most boneheaded moves at the end of that game that I have ever seen in my entire life. I mean, that was crazy. That was a really, really entertaining game to watch. I'm very happy with just how that game was from a football fan's perspective and from a fantasy perspective. We definitely got some very interesting performances and definitely a lot to take away from this game in fantasy football. So like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support. And honestly, I don't think I can get into this any other way without getting into the Cardinals first. I think I have to start with the Cardinals. And listen, with Kyler Murray, this guy has taken a lot of grief over the years. Like, Kyler Murray has definitely earned a lot of grief over the years as well, I would argue. But he's definitely gotten a lot of flack because this guy has been a guy that is, when he signed his contract, they had to put it in a clause, like no video games. Like, you need to focus more on football. And listen, I think that his commitment to the game has always been in question, but the guy's talent is not in question. I mean, Kyler Murray is legitimately one of the best talents that I have ever seen at the quarterback position. And I'm not joking when I say that either. I mean, this guy physically he's fantastic. Like, tonight, he threw pretty ball after pretty ball after pretty ball. And, it's so funny because I came on here and by the mid-third quarter, I kind of figured I knew how this was going to go. I was going to come on here tonight and just defend Kyler Murray and just talk about how bad the receivers were. Not just Marvin, but the rest of them as well. But they really turned it up. I mean, Kyler really rallied the troops. Ended up throwing 2 touchdowns in this game, both in the second half. And he threw 2 picks early in the first half. Now, again, I'm still going to defend Kyler Murray because Kyler takes a lot of grief. And again, I think some of it's warranted. I think some of it's overblown, though. Because with Kyler Murray, this guy, the first interception he threw, that's a little bit harder to just pin on Marvin. And if you didn't watch what happened, essentially what happened is that Marvin stopped on the route, but Kyler severely overthrew him. I don't think that even if Marvin had completed the route, that he was going to leap up. Marvin's not 8 feet tall. He wasn't going to be able to get up and get that one. So I just think that, it's not this situation where you have this guy who clearly just, cost his quarterback the interception. He definitely didn't do well, and it just showed a lack of effort on Marvin's part for sure. But at the same time, man, Kyler overthrew him. You can't ignore that first pick. The second pick was completely on Marvin. I mean, again, we're going to get into... I can't wait to talk about Marvin because there's so much that we need to discuss with him. I mean, his night was a roller coaster. But, with Kyler in particular, that second pick was not on him. That should have been a completed pass. It was actually a gorgeous throw that Kyler made. And this is what I'm trying to say with Kyler. Because actually over the years, I've given Kyler grief. But the reality is this. Kyler's talent is not questionable. This guy is a supreme talent at the quarterback position, and he always has been. But his receivers tonight, they let him down early in the first half and probably cost him the game. Because if you look at how that first drive, that second pick that drive was going well. And Kyler was on point, and Marvin just dropped it and bobbled it right into the defender's hands. So Kyler overall has a not-so-great fantasy night. It wasn't the worst thing it could have been because it was bad. I mean, for a while there, I was like, the guy, is he going to finish with 0 points tonight because of 2 picks? I mean, it really was a bad look. So Kyler salvages his fantasy day, but it really wasn't that great. Now, let's talk about the running game before we get into Marvin, because obviously the big takeaway a lot of people will have is that Trey Benson wasn't very good. And I had kind of warned people about this one beforehand. Listen, taking my emotions out of it, because Trey Benson was a flag plant guy for me this year. I really want him to do well. He was my most drafted player in 2025, and I've got him on all my dynasty leagues. I want Trey Benson to do well immediately. But I did pump the brakes on the Trey Benson breakout hype because I said this is a tough matchup for him. I mean, it's really hard to see Trey Benson do really well in this game considering the defense that he's going up against. And he comes out and doesn't do that well. I mean, Trey Benson, the reality with him is that he's always been like this. Like, the reason I liked Trey Benson coming out of college was because this guy can easily get you a massive run at any point in the game. Like, he could just break off a 70-yard run. He's got the talent for it. He's got the speed for it. But there's going to be plays, and we saw them tonight, of he's going to run right into the back of a lineman. I mean, there's times where his vision is not that good, and we saw a couple good runs from Benson, but overall, I mean, Benson was not great tonight, and I, again, rested at the feet of a good defense that he played. Like, I think if he played the Jags defense tonight or the Panthers defense tonight, like, Benson would have had a better night. But that wasn't his reality. He played one of the best defenses in football, and it just is what it is. I mean, it's not one of those situations where I look at and say, oh, like, we got to fade Trey Benson now. Like, I wasn't already that big on him this week. If anything, I'll probably rank him higher next week. Because what we did see from the majority of the game was he handled the majority of the workload really up until like the last two drives. I mean, that's when we started to see Amari DeMercado more. And of course, DeMercado gets in the end zone at the end of the game. But what we did see was like the last 4 or 5 minutes of that game, DeMercado was in more than Trey Benson. So I did kind of warn people about that again. And he played less than I thought he would, actually. So my big takeaway with Trey Benson in particular is that this guy is going to be fine. Like, he definitely will handle the majority of the backfield moving forward. And there will be games where he pops off. It will happen. It just was not his night tonight because this defense was brutal. Bisco and Alexis Bolanos, appreciate the super chats. I'm going to break down this game first, and then I'll answer your super chats. And then Kyler obviously had a couple really nice scrambles. I mean, it's so funny watching Kyler run because he's so short. And his feet, they're just like moving so fast. It's like they're just like running across the screen. And this guy is blazing by defenders who are like 5 inches taller than him. But Kyler is that gifted. Again, like, the physical gifts of Kyler Murray cannot be overstated. This guy is so physically gifted, and I think his receivers let him down tonight. So why don't we get into that? Marvin Harrison Jr. had one of the most roller coaster nights I have seen from a fantasy player in a long, long time. I mean, this guy was sweating so badly after that drop that turned into a pick. It looked like he just got out of the swimming pool. I mean, it was so crazy that this guy started the game, first drive, first play, gets a wide receiver screen right out of the gate, and he made a couple moves, and he gets 8 yards, right? So you're like, oh, maybe Marvin has a rebound night. And then time went on, and it was like, it wasn't just the dropped pickoff that happened with Kyler, right? Like, he dropped a pass, and it was 100% on him that it turned into an interception, right? That 100% happened. Now, the other thing that happened I touched on earlier is that he completely just like quit on a route. And it ended up being another interception that Kyler threw. And again, I'm not saying that throw wasn't on Kyler, because Kyler could have thrown a much better ball. But what I will say is this, just the optics of watching him quit on that route was bad enough for me to be like, this is going to be another bad game. Like, Marvin, I told people, some people, not everybody, but some people I told to start Marvin, and it's going to be a bad night. So I was really, really thinking it's not going to be it's not going to be getting better. And the last thing I'll say is, like, it was the interceptions, and then there was just like complete breakdowns of communication, clearly, with him and Kyler Murray on several throws tonight. Like, Kyler would be, I remember one play, Kyler was expecting Marvin to like break out for kind of a back shoulder throw or like a corner, like not a corner route, but like an out route towards the sidelines. And Marvin just like, he saw Kyler throw it and he didn't even like make an attempt or anything. He just kept running. Like, the miscommunications early in the game between Kyler and Marv were embarrassing. Like, so bad. So I don't know what the halftime speech was with Marvin Harrison Jr. and if he talked to Kyler Murray as a I don't know if he talked to Kyler Murray during halftime, but like whatever was said impacted him because he came out and was a completely different player. I mean, the touchdown catch that he caught tonight, that looked like Ohio State Marvin. And I say that in the best way because Marvin went up with a guy right in his face and high-pointed that ball with complete control. I mean, he looked like what they drafted him to be in that particular moment. So it was like, oh my gosh, like what the frick happened in the locker room? Because this guy, with the amount of confidence that he had lost from last week's drop to this week's drop, how do you bring him back like that? Marvin's talent, much like Kyler's, is not in question. I was saying this earlier in the week, and I want to end Marvin's diatribe on this. Earlier in the week, I was kind of discussing, like, I don't have connections in the NFL. So, like, don't take what I'm about to tell you and say, like, oh, Ryan has connections in the NFL. I don't. But I do listen to a lot of in-depth NFL stuff that I think most fantasy creators don't care to listen to. And one of the things that I heard this past week after Marvin's really bad game last week was a lot of resurfaced, like, pre-draft analysis from scouts on Marvin Harrison Jr. And one of the things that I had heard was, like, this guy just has a really meek personality. And Marvin Harrison Sr. actually went on an interview. He went on a podcast, like, before the draft. And basically, it was like kind of a lackadaisical podcast. But Marvin Harrison Sr. got asked a question. He said, what's the biggest difference between you and your son? And Marvin got serious. And Marvin was basically like, when I wasn't getting the ball, when he was playing with the Colts and Peyton Manning, if I didn't get the ball, I was over there mother effing Peyton Manning on the sidelines and the offensive coaches. Get me the freaking ball. Marvin Jr. isn't like that. Like, Marvin, if he doesn't get the ball, he's just like, what am I going to do? Like, he doesn't have the dog and that alpha that his dad has. So I think it completely encompasses tonight. Because the talent, again, is not in question. But this guy, I don't think that he looked like he cared in the first half. And even in the second half, like, he just didn't look like he was that, like, emotionally involved. You could tell that, like, when he caught that touchdown pass, it was a sigh of relief for him. But I will say, man, I mean, it was bizarre watching how tonight went for Marvin. I mean, it was like a complete roller coaster. I was literally getting ready. By the third quarter, I was like, I've got my whole speech from Marvin planned out. Like, I'm going to absolutely eviscerate him in this live stream tonight. But then he completely turned his day around because it wasn't just the touchdown. Like, he caught a really key pass on third down at the end of the game on that last drive. And that was key. Like, he just looked like a different player. It was weird. I mean, good for Marvin. I don't know. I'll be honest. Like, I really don't know what to think about Marvin moving forward. Like, usually on these videos, I have a graph that shows, like, trending up or trending down. I didn't know what to do with Marvin tonight. Because, like, I think if you look at that first half, even after the second half, I don't think that you can realistically say, like, Marvin is a great fantasy asset moving forward and he's on the up and up. I don't feel that way. Like, I think Marvin was so bad in the first half that what he did in the first half what he did in the second half kind of like canceled out how bad that first half was. So I feel basically the same. Marvin is who he is. Like, this guy has so much physical talent. And if he is feeling it, he will come out and do well. But he left so much meat on the bone tonight, just like he did last week. Last week, he could have had like a legitimate 120-yard game. Tonight, he could have as well. So, like, it was just really bizarre. I feel basically the same about Marvin. He is a very shaky wide receiver in your lineup, and there's going to be more games where he disappoints you. But there's also going to be games that are better than this. Marvin's a tough nut, man. Trey McBride was great. He's just a really good tight end. I mean, really, there's like no other explanation. Like, he is always, whenever stuff goes wrong, right? And plenty went wrong tonight because we're about to cover more guys. Like, it wasn't just Marvin. I mean, Marvin was the highlight, and he was definitely the worst. But I will say this, like, Marvin was not the only problem. I mean, Greg Dortch had a couple big plays, particularly towards the end, but he dropped some passes as well. I mean, there was just miscommunication and drop after miscommunication. There were so many issues. Well, who does he look to when that happens? Trey McBride. Trey McBride, there's never an issue with him. Like, he is not the one who's having miscommunication issues with Kyler. He is not the one who is dropping passes for Kyler. Whenever there's a problem, he goes to Trey McBride. And, yeah, it wasn't a fantastic fantasy night or anything like that. But from a tight end, like, that's a solid performance right there. And just the bottom line being this. Trey McBride is a guy that you can realistically every week put in your lineup and not have to worry about him, like, just having a horrific performance. I mean, he just doesn't really do anything wrong. So, yeah, it wasn't his best night or anything like that, but he wasn't getting many targets down the field particularly. He was up close to the line of scrimmage a lot of the night, just getting layups basically because Kyler needed them. I mean, Kyler literally could not have had a worse, supporting cast for the first half. So, like, he had no choice but to go down and just check the ball down to Trey McBride. McBride's going to have better games than this. Don't worry. It wasn't his best night, but he's going to be fine. And again, Greg Dortch, like, there's nothing to take away from this. Like, he's not a fantasy asset that you want, but he had some big plays for them. Trey Benson also in the passing game, 5 catches for 19 yards. Really, that's what salvaged his day. In a full PPR format, he wasn't the worst play that you could have had. He wasn't very good, but he wasn't the worst play because of that PPR performance. I did see someone in the chat down here. Maybe there's news on this. Apparently there was an ankle injury to Trey Benson. Let's see. Trey Benson, ankle injury. Let's look. Trey Benson, I don't see anything on it yet. Maybe I'm missing something. Yeah, I might be missing something. I did see someone say something about Trey Benson's injury, but until I get confirmation on that, I won't overreact to that. But, I mean, maybe it would explain why he wasn't in for the majority of those final couple drives. But Trey Benson, like I said, I'll reiterate this. Trey Benson's going to have better games, assuming his health. Assuming he's healthy and he'll play, like, he's going to be fine. This was a bad matchup. Don't overreact to this. I tried to warn people all week about Trey Benson, and it came basically exactly how I expected it. So it wasn't like I was expecting a steak sandwich and I instead ate a crap sandwich, right? Like, I knew what I was getting. So it's all about expectations. And Trey Benson's going to be fine. Michael Wilson had a couple decent plays. He had a really nice catch on 4th down. I think it was in the first half. But Amari DiMercado, again, this guy is definitely someone that you want to keep an eye on because he will be involved, and especially if Trey Benson is injured. So let's go to the Seahawks. Actually, really quick, before I jump off this, I have to say this. Like, I was just saying to my wife, like, watching that game, after the Cardinals made that last-minute touchdown, right, and they put themselves in position to go to overtime with the Seahawks, that kicker, I mean, what he did, if you did not see, that kicker did something that was first ballot, Hall of Fame stupid. I was like losing my mind watching it. Like, my wife was like, what's the big deal? Like, what did he do? And if you're not aware, there's a new rule with the kickoffs this year, right? So you have to kick the ball, and it has to land at least at the 20 or beyond the 20. The opponent's 20-yard line. So if you can't really kick like a squib kick like you used to and have it land, at the 30-yard line and then just like bounce back to the guy who's returning it. You can't do that anymore. You have to kick it and it has to land at least at the 20-yard line. So this guy kicks basically a squib-style kick. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, these kickers these days, as talented as they are, I have a hard time believing that was just like a missed kick from him. Like, that looks like a coaching mistake. I mean, it was so blatantly first ballot Hall of Fame stupid. I have never seen anything dumber before. How crazy that was. If I was a Cardinals fan, I would be beside myself tonight. Like, that was so incredibly dumb. I don't even know what to say. Like, it was so bad, they deserved to lose that game just based off of that alone. So I'll end it with the Cardinals there. Now let's go to the Seahawks. And listen, I told people before the night started, Sam Darnold has not been a great fantasy quarterback this year. But I will tell you this, like Sam Darnold up to this point tonight had looked pretty good to me. Like he had looked mostly good. And you're not seeing I think what a lot of people thought. And this is great credit to Kevin O'Connell over in Minnesota. A lot of people thought that him leaving O'Connell in Minnesota was going to be, we're going to see old Sam Darnold again, making mistakes, mental errors, all the stuff that had basically made him on track to be a backup his whole life. We were going to see that all over again. Listen, I watched tonight, that full game, and Darnold, again, is not going to fill up the stat sheet and be a great fantasy quarterback, and I don't think that changes, by the way. I don't think you can expect many big games from Darnold. But what I got to tell you is this. That offensive coordinator over there, I've been kind of glowing about all offseason. Clint Kubiak knows what he's doing. And Darnold played a really cerebral game. He was quick with his decision-making. He was finding the open guy, going through his progressions very calm. He was very quick and decisive and played an overall really great mental game. Now, again, you're not going to get this, massive performance in fantasy from Darnold any particular week. He may do it once where he has a 25 or 30 point game, but I don't see Darnold as a guy that's just going to grow as the season goes along. I don't think that's the case. He's got one superstar wide receiver who I believe is belonging in the category of superstar, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and he's got an old wide receiver 2 and Tory Horton who has not developed yet into a wide receiver 2. So I don't see that Sam Darnold is going to have some resurgence from a fantasy perspective later in the year. I just think that, when in doubt, if you have a really bad quarterback situation, you could do a lot worse than Darnold because he's not making the mistakes that he once used to make. Now with the running game here, I tried to warn people on this, right? Listen, I did have Kenneth Walker ranked pretty high this week. But I did tell people before the game tonight when I went live, I said Kenneth has moved down. He has moved down my rankings because Charbonnet is a full go for this game. And originally, during the week, I thought, maybe Charbonnet plays, but he's probably not going to be, getting a full workload. Well, it was basically like we've seen the first 3 weeks, or the first 2 weeks before the injury, which is that Kenneth Walker was splitting a lot of time with Charbonnet. So if you actually look at the game tonight, Kenneth Walker had a great game. Kenneth had 4.3 yards per carry, several break-off runs. He looked really good. He also had a nice catch out of the backfield as well. Kenneth Walker had a good day, but it flat out just is not going to come close to the game that Charbonnet had in a fantasy football perspective. Because Charbonnet got in the end zone. He actually got in the end zone twice, but the second time got called back because of a Jackson Smith-Njigba holding, which ironically, he almost got kicked out of the game for him. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, this situation remains the same. And I got dogged for it, and rightfully so. A couple weeks ago when I said, Zach Charbonnet, you want him in fantasy over Kenneth Walker in your lineups, I got dogged for it, rightfully so. Because Charbonnet is not the better back. It's Kenneth. Kenneth is the better back. He's the more explosive back, the better athlete. He has more upside. But the fact remains, this is a split backfield. They're both viable on a weekly basis. Until we see these two guys and one of them separate from the pack, they're going to remain relatively close from now on. They're just too close in workload. So, yes, I prefer Kenneth as a player. If I was building an NFL team, I would want Kenneth over Charbonnet. But, the reality is that Charbonnet is just as involved, basically. So, this backfield still remains a big mystery and one that you just have to proceed with caution. Because Kenneth should have had the better fantasy night by far, but the fantasy score does not indicate how this game really went. Kenneth was a better player tonight than Charbonnet, but Charbonnet got those important opportunities, particularly at the goal line. Now, Jackson Smith-Njigba, to start out with him, for the receivers, he had a really interesting night, I would say. Not as interesting as Marvin's for sure, but he had an interesting night himself. He was, the first half didn't have a target. It was weird. Jackson Smith-Njigba was basically irrelevant in the passing game for the first half of the game. He had 3 carries for 11 yards, though. So it was like they were trying to like use him, but they weren't throwing him the ball because the the Cardinals defense was all over him. By the way, the Cardinals defense looked really good tonight. Like the Seahawks defense looked really good too, particularly in the first half. But the Cardinals defense I was impressed with because they did really good at bottling up Jackson Smith-Njigba as long as they could. But make no mistake about this, guys. I'm not going to act like Jackson Smith-Njigba is not a superstar. And when I say that, I mean that he is on the level of guys like, maybe not there yet, but he is one step below Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. Like, he's right there below those guys. Jackson Smith-Njigba is a superstar wide receiver. And that's a fact. I mean, this guy, again, doesn't have the best fantasy night. And I'm not going to act like he did. But this guy at the end of the game was super important for this offense. And he is a route running aficionado. And that's what I loved about him coming out of college. I said he was the best prospect I had seen since Jamar Chase leading into the 2023 draft. And it was met with people who were like, what are you watching? And I was like, just watch the tape. Like, this guy is freaking good. And I feel very validated watching him do so well these days. Again, I wouldn't say that he's like on the same tier necessarily as Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb, but I would say this. He's been fantastic this year. And he's a true number one. So with Jackson Smith-Njigba, I really do think that he is a guy that is a must. Like, if you are not considering him a must start, something needs to change in your mentality because this guy is a must start in fantasy football. He's fantastic. He's fantastic. Elijah Arroyo actually had potential for a big night. AJ Barner caught the touchdown to the tight end position, and he was involved. But Arroyo, the thing about him to watch moving forward is that this offense gets him involved in downfield throws. Now, it's still a situation where both of these tight ends are relevant in this offense, and I don't like 2 tight end offenses. Like, typically, unless it's the Ravens, I don't want a 2 tight end set. Like, the Browns are also maybe an exception. I think they're both solid in fantasy, but the Seahawks are not on that level. Like, they've got Jackson Smith-Njigba, a superstar wide receiver 1. So I think that both these guys are interesting to watch. Barner, from a fantasy perspective, has been better than Arroyo so far, but Arroyo, I think, has more upside moving forward. And I would say that when he finally takes that leap as the lead tight end, like, he could be dangerous. I mean, he gets a lot of downfield work. Like, you see this guy running routes, and oftentimes tonight, like, he wears number 18, and he has the body type of, like, a big alpha X wide receiver. Like, he looks more like a well-built, like, Marvin Harrison Jr., DK Metcalf type of receiver than he does like a tight end. Like, he just has a different build than like Trey McBride does, for example. I think Elijah Arroyo has legitimate upside moving forward. It's just a matter of, like, does this guy end up becoming the tight end 1 at some point clearly in this offense? Because he's not there yet. But I will say it's interesting. Cooper Kupp, as I continue to say, is just not a guy that I have interested in fantasy. Like, I think that this guy is basically, Cooper Kupp is basically just, he's washed at this point. Like, there's no respectful way for me to come out and say that other than the fact that this guy is washed. Warshed. Washed. It's what he is, man. It's what he truly is. And that's why I think that, like, the next wide receiver up for me is not Jake Bobo, who caught a pass for 17 yards tonight. The next guy up is Tory Horton. And I keep telling people, keep your eye on this guy because I bet you he's still on a bunch of waivers this week. But I think that Tory Horton, as the weeks go on, is going to get more important in this offense. I mean, he almost had a touchdown catch tonight. It was a really nice defensive play. It was towards the beginning of the game. But Tory Horton is a guy that you need to watch out for because they are starving for a wide receiver too, as good as JSN is. And I mean it when I say this. I'll say it again. JSN is elite, and he's a superstar. I'm not joking when I say that. But I will say that Tory Horton is a guy that, like, they're just hurting for a wide receiver too. So they're definitely going to be in this position to where if Cooper Kupp doesn't bring back some of what he once had, Tory Horton's going to start taking over. That was the breakdown of the game tonight. Like the video, subscribe to the channel to show your support, and I'll go through a couple of the super chats I got tonight. Bisco, appreciate the super chat. Have K9 and Sharps ready to trade them off. Yeah, listen, I think that, again, these two guys, just based on what we've seen so far through the first 3 games, excluding last week because Charbonnet was out, you can't look at that situation and tell me that there's one clear lead back and a better back for fantasy. Week 1, it was Charbonnet. Then week 2 was Kenneth. Last week, it was Kenneth too because Charbonnet was out. Then it's Charbonnet again this week. And if you look at it, it's not that complicated. This backfield is split entirely. Kenneth Walker is the better player and in theory should be the better fantasy option, but it's not set up like that. So you can't treat it as that. I don't know if I'd suggest you trade them, but I will say this, I do think that you have to at least consider a trade if one is given to you. Because, the thing with it is that you're not going to get much value after tonight, especially if you trade Kenneth straight up. But Charbonnet is right there. So, it's a tough predicament to be in. I will be honest with you. It's a very tough predicament because I don't feel like you could do much with either of these players until we get a clear lead back, which maybe doesn't even happen. And you just have to kind of suffer through a weekly ping pong, basically, of is Kenneth going to be the better running back today, or is it going to be Charbonnet? That might just be what the season is like, which it could be worse. You could have a back who takes all the work and sees nothing like Ashton Genty has done so far, but it's not ideal. That's for sure. I appreciate the super chat. Alexis Bolanos, appreciate the super chat. Can't with the split touches. What running back can I get for K9? Okay, so we're going to get into trade targets right now, which is fine. But I just said again, I don't think that he's much of a tradable asset. Now, that being said, I'm not running your team. If I was running your team, I wouldn't trade him. But since you are clearly seem desperate to move on from Kenneth, I mean, on the high end, I would try to go in for guys like Chuba Hubbard. I would try to go in for Alvin Kamara off a tough week. I would try to maybe go for somebody let's look at Fantasy Roundup, fsroundup.com, and just go through some running backs here. So these are last week's fantasy leaders of the running back position. I would try to get on the high end again, guys maybe you could get Jordan Mason. Probably not, though. But again, high-end guys, I would try to get Jordan Mason. J.K. Dobbins is a guy that I would try to get. Javonte Williams I might try to get. Travis Etienne I might try to get. But realistically, right now, based on the split backfield, you might have to settle for DeAndre Swift, who has everything, but hasn't done much yet. But I do think could be better. So it's not the worst thing. It's not the end of the world. Again, Chuba Hubbard, I think, is a high-end option. I think you could probably get Breece Hall for Kenneth Walker because he's also in a split backfield. You could definitely get Travion for my bet because Travion just hasn't been, he hasn't had enough work. You could get Nick Chubb, but I wouldn't want him. Those are the backs. I think those are the backs that I would say, if you really wanted to, you could try, but I wouldn't do it. Ashton Genty, that might be one I would be yeah, I'd do that. I would try to, if you could get someone who's really pissed off about Ashton Genty and trades him to you for Kenneth Walker, I would do that. But I don't think you would get that, just to be honest with you. It's going to be tough. Like I said, I personally would not trade him, but since you seem pretty reluctant to keep him, those are your options right there, I would say. Appreciate the super chat. Tyler Sperry, appreciate the super chat. The Cardinals need to treat Benson like Benson and not like James Conner. Conner is better. Plus, Myrai got bailed out so much. I'm not sure who Myrai is, but listen, I disagree with you. I think Trey Benson's a really good player, to be honest with you. And, one of the things that's also interesting, and I didn't really mention tonight, is that Trey Benson is a guy that will benefit from the pass. Like Kyler Murray, I always talk about, like during the offseason, I particularly harp on this when we're drafting running backs, avoiding running backs in backfields with a running quarterback if their price is too high because the pass catching won't be there as much. Kyler's a guy who's always not liked getting hit. So when I think about Kyler, I think about a guy who is going to check the ball down because James Conner has gotten plenty of dump offs over the years from Kyler. Trey Benson will continue to get that. Listen, I know that you're giving James Conner his flowers, and I respect that because James Conner is a very good player. But I respectfully disagree on him not being as good. Like I think Trey Benson is a really good player. I just don't think we weren't going to see that tonight. Like I said, we were not going to see Trey Benson come out and dominate the Seahawks front seven. That just was not in the cards tonight. So it's all about expectations. Like my expectations were very low for Trey Benson tonight. So I didn't come away thinking like, oh, I've got to lower James Conner or Trey Benson in my rankings now. No, I knew what to expect. So what we saw tonight was not a surprise at all. I think that he's just going to be a guy that moving forward is going to have better weeks. Appreciate the super chat. Marvin Harrison Jr. don't have the heart his dad had. I would agree with that. I definitely agree with that. I mean, listen, like I said, like Marvin's dad literally came on a podcast. And I can't stress how important this is. Like, I was texting a buddy watching Marvin do, like, when Marvin was being bad or in the first half, I was texting a buddy at halftime. And I was like, dude, I've got to kind of, like, reconfigure my evaluation on wide receivers moving forward. And he's like, why? Like, why would you reevaluate everything? Because, like, Marvin is a guy that most people didn't think would miss. It's not just you. And I said to him, listen, it's not that I'm going to reevaluate my whole process, but I'm going to start taking personality traits more into account because this information apparently was out there before the draft, which was Marvin is a guy that is meek. He's not his dad. He's not a dog. Like Marvin, and like not to like disrespect Marvin Sr., because I think that guy is one of the best wide receivers of my lifetime. But there was a lot of stories about Marvin Sr. back in the day. Like he was a sketchy dude. Like you didn't want to mess with Marvin. I mean, there was there was potential, crimes, like violent crimes with Marvin. And again, I'm not trying to desecrate his name. Like Marvin Sr. is elite. And he's one of my personal favorite wide receivers ever. But Marvin was a rough dude. Like this guy was just an animal. And I remember one story in particular, like before a game one time in the stadium, he like ran up on like, I think it was like a reporter and like scared the crap out of him. Like he was a dog. And I love that for players. Like Marvin isn't that. Like if you think about it, and I don't want to get too personal with anybody, but like this is not an insult to Marvin Jr. Like he just grew up with like a better circumstance, right? Like his dad is a Hall of Fame player. He grew up like, it's kind of like the Shedeur Sanders thing, right? Like Shedeur Sanders is a guy who grew up in basically the background of the spotlight of Deion Sanders because he was so great. Well, I mean, obviously it's not working out for Shedeur so far because a lot of it has to do with the fact that he was given so much when he was young. And again, I think that the only reason I'm going to bring this up now is because my evaluation process with wide receivers in particular, because I think I'm a pretty strong wide receiver evaluator. I was way bigger on JSN back before he was drafted than most people. Like, I was really in on him. I think I'm good at evaluating wide receivers. I'm going to start taking personality traits into account because Marvin, before the draft, I think it was out there and people just didn't report on it as much. And nobody really talked about it and wasn't mainstream. But Marvin is not his dad. You're exactly right about that. Appreciate the super chat. Kane Lee, what's going on? Appreciate the super chat. Any ideas why Benson got no touches on the last drive? Yeah, like I said, I had seen earlier in the chat that he was injured. I haven't seen anything on it. Maybe there's an update now if we just refresh the page. I still don't see anything on this injury. Maybe if we went to X or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have no idea. I truly don't. I saw someone earlier tonight mention that Trey Benson may have had an ankle injury, but that was the only thing I could think of, other than the fact that what I said prior to the game being the case, which is that Amari DiMercato, based on last week, will get involvement. And we hadn't seen much of any of DiMercato up to that point. But if you just look at the usage last week, third downs, Amari DiMercato was in on 5. Short yardage, that was James Conner. But DiMercato was involved. So it's either DiMercato is just going to be involved moving forward, or Benson did get hurt. But again, I can't validate this Benson injury. But it was bizarre. It was bizarre. So I do wonder if that injury news is true, and I'm going to see that here after I get off my live stream. Appreciate the super chat. Adam Thompson, good to see you, man. Appreciate the super chat. As a JSN owner, that first half had me scared, but he made plays when they needed it. He looks poised to be a superstar. Yeah, like I said, I'm drop the word poised, and I agree with you. He is a superstar. I don't know how to make it any clearer to people. JSN is, I'm not saying, and again, I will repeat this, JSN is not yet on the level of Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and he probably won't be because he doesn't have that level of talent physically. But he's right below them. He's in that same tier as guys like Malik Neighbors. I'm not joking when I say that. Malik, yes, is more physically gifted than him. Same with Nico Collins. But JSN is so polished as a player. As a route runner, he's amazing. And this guy is an alpha wide receiver. Drop the word poised. Just say it like that. He looks to be a superstar, and I agree with you. He is a superstar. Bottom line. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is... This just kind of goes to show, a lot of people never considered him to be a superstar coming out of college. So, you can't... most people are kind of, slower to the party. And I'm not trying to, accuse you of being slow to the party. It seems like you're on the same page with me, but what I'm saying is that a lot of people in the pre-draft process did not look in his direction and say oh, that's a wide receiver one day. They liked Quentin Johnston better. And I said Quentin Johnston is nowhere near JSN as a prospect. Well, even though Quentin Johnston's having a breakout year this year, I still say that. JSN is a better player by far than Quentin Johnston. Same with Jordan Addison in the same draft class. A lot of people like Jordan Addison's talent more. And I said, people are overlooking this guy. He is a polished route runner. JSN's a stud, man. I love JSN. I've got him on all my dynasty teams. Believed in him from the start. Drafted a bunch of him last year. Drafted a bunch of him this year. I mean, this is just a really good player. Bottom line, end of story. And it looks like the good news is that Sam Darnold is a good quarterback who can deliver him the ball. Because the last thing I wanted to see for him this year was that Darnold would be bad and it would be a Garrett Wilson situation. It wasn't that. Jackson Smith-Njigba has a legitimate quarterback delivering him the ball, and you can definitely count on that moving forward. So I'm going to end it there. This is not typically a Q&A, but I appreciate everyone being here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel on your way out, and if you do have start-sit questions and just want to engage with the rest of the community, go to FS Roundup, start a poll, start-sit poll for free tonight on FS Roundup, and also go vote on other people's decisions that they're making because it helps a lot of people out, and they'll help you out as well. So help out everybody else and go create a start-sit poll, get your questions answered. Sync up your ESPN team, get personalized insights. This is a new feature we just added, and also the comparison tool is new as well. These two, the sync your team and compare, those are both going to be for premium subscriptions. So those are premium, but the polls are free. And the last thing I'll leave people on is just a quick question. If anybody plays in IDP leagues, we're thinking about expanding some of the features on FS Roundup for IDP leagues. Now, if you could do me a favor and let me know if you're in an IDP league, what would help your team? What value could we bring to you? If you could tell me in the chat, if you could tell me in the comment section, if you're in an IDP league about what you would like to see, let me know, because we are definitely looking forward to expanding to IDP leagues as well. But we want your feedback first. So again, love you guys. Appreciate you being here tonight. I'll see you tomorrow.